This case is probably one of the most gut-wrenching incidents that rattled South Korea. When it came to light, the nation basically exploded. Netizens were furious about it, and randomly sudden photos of men rumored to be involved were posted everywhere. No filters, no fact-checking, just raw outrage spilling over into chaos. It wasn't just the crime that shocked everyone. It was everything that came after the crime. The police response, the media handling, horrible, the victim blaming, and the worst of all, how justice seemed to slip right through the cracks. The disturbing case also inspired a lot of dramas and very powerful films. One of them was Han Hong-ju in 2013, the Miryang rape case, and the critically acclaimed Signal series. So, welcome back to another Beauty and Crime Sunday with me, which I do my skincare while I talk about the disturbing cases I found this week. This week it's gonna be a little shorter. I know this case has a lot of stuff, but I wanted to make it shorter, or maybe if you like it, you can tell me and I will try to make it much bigger or longer. So without further ado, we're gonna start with this frustrated, infuriating Miryang gang rape case. Our story begins in June 2003. A 13-year-old girl, known publicly only as Choi, was living in Ulsan City, South Korea. She met a high school student online, a boy with the surname Park. They did chatter for a while, and in January 2004, Park actually invited her to come visit him in the city of Miryang. Maybe she was curious, maybe she was just looking for connection, something to do. Whatever the reason, she went to meet him. But this wasn't really an innocent meetup. Park lured her into a location, and once there, he attacked her, and he was not alone. 11 other boys were waiting there, part of what is known now as the Miryang youth gang, a group notorious in that area for violence and bullying people. So together, they forced her into a nearby motel. What happened next was basically repeated abuse. It was filmed, weaponized, and used to silence her after. They told her if she ever spoke out, the videos would spread online. And unfortunately, they really meant that. This horrific cycle didn't really end up that day. For nearly a year, she was victimized again and again, sometimes in very public places like playgrounds, tennis courts. Not only physically abused, but mentally and emotionally tortured, because remember, they had videos of her being essayed. So if she didn't really, because she lived in another town, if she didn't really want to go back and be essayed, they would be like, oh, you don't want to do that? Well, we have videos and we're gonna show everyone about it. But according to police reports, each time she was attacked, there was about 3 to 24 men. Well, let's not call them men, they're boys involved. In total, there were over 44 individuals that were connected to the abuse in some way. There was some of them that would be the main perpetrators and others that would just join sometimes or would record, but still very fucked up. And then, if things could not get any more horrifying in this case, she was forced to bring her younger 13-year-old sister and the 16-year-old cousin to Miryang. They too were targeted and harmed by the group. I believe they were not, I don't know which one, but I believe the cousin was not so harmed compared to the other two, but still abused and essay, but not so torture like Choi, for example. She was the main one to be abused. Also, the threats were not very empty. Videos were actually uploaded online, compounding the trauma to Choi with not only public shame, also digital abuse and digital bullying. So why couldn't anyone save her, you may ask? Choi's home life was deeply troubled. Her father was an alcoholic, often violent and very unpredictable, and her mother, unable to endure the abuse of the father, eventually fled and just left them. That left Choi without any support, without safety, and without someone to actually turn to for help. At this point, she was a child, alone, abused, ignored by a system that is supposed to protect her. Choi had nowhere to go, nowhere that she could actually feel safe. The only person who could actually save her or protect her, her father, was actually also abusing her and hurting her too, so she didn't really feel safe anywhere. Day after day, she endured abuse, both outside and inside her house. And eventually, she ended up breaking. One day, she swallowed a large amount of pills, sleeping pills, and she was ready to let it go, to just escape it all. But fate had other plans for her. She survived and she ended up waking up in the hospital. There, a doctor actually realized something it's not right here. The marks, the bruises in her arms and legs, they didn't really add up. So a full medical examination was ordered for her. And what they discovered actually ended up revealing the actual truth. Everything that she endured for over a year now ended up coming to light. On November 25, 2004, Choi's aunt reported the case to the actual police. An official investigation was launched. And soon it really became clear for everyone. Choi wasn't the only victim. At least 5 other girls had been targeted by the same group. That's why they ended up calling them the Miryang gang rape case. Now, this could have been the moment that justice was served, but do you think justice was served? I don't think so. It was supposed to be a turning point. If the perpetrators actually had faced serious consequences, maybe the story could have ended there. But did it? No. Things instead got much worse. The police investigation mishandled from the very beginning. Victims were reportedly scolded by officers, told that they were damaging the town's reputation. And then it came the unimaginable. The victims' identities were revealed to the public. Their names, their schools, their faces. Choi began receiving threats and blackmail. And not just from the perpetrators, also from their families and parents, which makes it even worse. Choi actually pleaded to the police to be asked by the female officer. But do you think they gave her that? No. Her request was flat out denied. Think about that. After everything that she went through, she still was not treated with basic dignity. And if you thought things could not get any worse, well, they keep getting worse. During the investigation, Choi was asked by these officers if she ever had seduced the boys. Yes, she, a 13-year-old victim, was being blamed by the people that were supposed to protect her, the police. And this, I think, is the worst part and the most known because there is pictures about it. She was forced to sit down in the same room with all these perpetrators, which, by the way, they were 44 individuals, and they would sit in front of her, and officers would ask them one by one if they had put it inside her. I cannot even make this shit up. Can you imagine the humiliation, the fear in her eyes, the trauma of reliving that moment with each phase that she had to endure. 44 individuals, being asking that to every single one. Also, physically, she was in terrible shape. She required a very long-term medical treatment for all the injuries that they had inflicted on her. Mentally, obviously, she was also broken. She did attempt to take her own life. Oops. Not once, but multiple times. And eventually, she was placed in very close psychiatric ward for her own safety. Even there, she wasn't really safe. Her father did come up to visit her in the hospital. But do you think he was a good father after all that he made her go through? No. He wasn't alone. He brought the perpetrator's parents. What for, you may ask? Not to ask if she was okay. No. They pressured her to accept a settlement for 15 million won, which in USD dollars could be like $45,000, if I'm correct. But even worse, they forced her to sign a petition asking for leniency in the sentencing. Her father and close relatives, they took the money. They didn't even give her a penny for it. Not a single one was used for her recovery or her mental health. Absolutely nothing. And when she tried to return to school, no school would accept her. Why? Because she was labeled a rape victim. Eventually, she actually did get accepted to a school, but even that was very short-lived. The parents of the perpetrators would come every single day to the school very regularly, harassing her, demanding she sign more petitions for their son's parole. The audacity of these parents is just incredible. In the end, after all this incident, she had to drop out. All she actually wanted was basically a normal life, and she couldn't even get that. But what do you think happened to all those 44 boys involved in one of the most shocking cases in South Korea? After everything Choi went through, after everything that so many victims endured, you expect justice to show up, right? But it didn't. Prosecutors ended up sending most of the perpetrators to juvenile court, and many others were their charges were dropped completely. Only 10 boys were charged with essay. And what did the prosecutors recommend? 2 to 4 years imprisonment, with 3 years of probation. The reasoning? Oh, the boys were too young, and some had already been accepted for college or have some jobs, so we cannot ruin their future. Isn't this ironic? However, even those minimal charges, they didn't end up sticking. The judges refused to uphold those charges and instead sent all those 10 people to juvenile court. Because Choi's father accepted the settlement money, which I don't know how you could. It should be illegal that he can accept the settlement money, but okay. And all 13 boys were clear of all charges. In the end, only 5 of the suspects were sent to juvenile, and not a single one was convicted of a criminal charge. And that's how it ended. That's it. No happy ending in this case. There is actually a lot to think about here. The system obviously failed this very young girl over and over again. They didn't just make one mistake, they did one after the other. It's been almost like 20 years since the Miryang case. And since that time, obviously, things have changed. Laws have been evolved. Awareness about this case also has grown. And the public is more outspoken. Victims are more supportive than back then. And that's sadly Because of cases like this, as tragic as they did help in people realizing this is not right. But that doesn't really mean that everything is fixed and everything is happy flower. It's a reminder that justice needs to be fought for, that silence, like in this case, can be deadly, and that stories like Choi should never ever be forgotten. Even today in South Korea, like very high sex crime cases still happen, especially with South Korea's lenient sentences with this sex crimes. And juvenile crimes also in South Korea are raising a lot. But more and more voices are trying to make the lower minimum age of criminal responsibility to be lower, so these juveniles can actually be charged for crimes like this. But beyond age and legal loopholes that they have, one truth remains. Our justice system is meant to protect people and to deliver justice for everyone, especially the ones who actually need it the most. That's a must. It must do that. So keep that in mind. This was the Miryang case, one of the darkest chapters in South Korea's history. I tell these stories not to sensationalize them. No, never. These stories actually matter, so I'm trying to make people realize things like this should be changed and they should not happen again. They remind us of what is actually broken and what we still need to fix, and let me tell you, there is a lot. I will be back next time with another creepy case that actually demands to be heard. Until then, stay aware, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, justice is not a privilege. It's a right. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one, and remember, do your skincare. And if you don't end up like a glazed donut at the end of it, you're not doing it right. Bye-bye!